Hi, everyone. So before we hop into the episode, I do want to do just a blanket trigger warning. This is going to be a very tough episode that we're going to be discussing. We are going to be discussing, as mentioned in the previous episode, we are going to be talking about the death, the murder of Emmet Till and the bombing that happened. Again, this is being recorded beforehand. The bombing that happened in Alabama, where the Ku Klux Klan bombed a church and murdered young girls. So it's going to be a very tough episode. And on Mikel's part, he is going to be discussing the death of Trayvon Martin as well as George Floyd. So it is going to be a very tough episode. It is going to be emotion inducing for sure. So just be kind to yourself with this episode if you think you can't handle this, because again, majority of the cases we're going to be talking about is involving children, minors, and of course with George Floyd's case, it was there for the whole world to see. So it is a very tough episode. So again, just be very kind to yourself if you think you want to skip through this episode and come back to us next week. We definitely understand. These are important topics that do need to be discussed, but again, it is a very hard topic to discuss. So, so just be kind to yourself. If you cannot handle this episode, that is okay. We'll see you next week with our Black People in Arts episode. But without further ado, let's hop into the episode now.
What's up, everyone? This is the Next Tape Podcast, episode 20 with Mikel and
Tanyka,
where we have conversations on different topics. So welcome to another edition of our Black History Month series. So if you haven't heard our last two episodes, the first one's based on inventors. The second one is based on civil rights leaders. So go check them out if you haven't. Now, if we didn't do a great job, guys, you are free to do your research on these Black History Month themes. So you can go to your local library, read a book, research on the internet, go to Barnes or Noble or Chapters. That's the best part about doing your research. It's accessible and it's also free.
Well, not if you go to a Chapters or a Barnes and Noble. It won't be free anymore.
You have to buy. You have to buy the book, obviously. But like it's, when you buy the book, you just read into it. It's right there. It's free. It's right there. So
it's not free. Yeah. But anyways.
Well, you know what I mean, basically.
I think I do.
You buy it, and the research is right in front of you.
Yes, but not free. it's right in front of you.
Okay, fine.
If you're buying a book,
fine. Not free, but don't steal, people. Don't steal from Barnes and Nobles or
because then it really is free.
Then it's free. Okay, so what is today's theme today for our Black History Month? Tanyka?
Okay, so today's theme is we're going to be talking about the deaths that affected or maybe even pushed the civil rights movement as well as the Black Lives Matters movement. I did put a massive trigger warning in the beginning of this episode, but again, just be kind to yourself if this is something you need to skip, because we're going to be talking about death and we're going to be talking about minors, children being murdered, with the exception of one. So it is going to be a tough episode. This is definitely an episode that, is needed. unfortunately, but definitely be kind to yourself. And if it's something you can't handle, don't do it. We understand.
Yeah, it's these are very sensitive topics. If you do not want to listen to this episode, I suggest you skip this episode. You don't have to listen to this episode at all. We just doing this episode for making people aware of the situation that Black people go through. Is that right?
Yes.
So Barack Obama, like we said, a lot of the athletes and celebrities and senators and even the president at the time, Barack Obama, the first Black president of the United States, expressed his dismay at the shootings, saying that if he had a son, he looked like Trayvon.
I remember him saying that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Obama compared Martin to his younger self as well, and characterized racial profile as a reality that most African Americans, including himself, have to face. Protest continues across the United States in the wake of the Trayvon Martin verdict and led to formation of prompt Black Lives Matter social movement, which focus on better treatment on African Americans in all facets of American society.
Facets.
Is it assets or
facets?
No, facets. There we go. Jesus Christ, facets. Right. So, that's basically it. It's sad that the young man died in the situation, and the anniversary is coming in a couple weeks. So, rest in peace to Trayvon Martin, and also hopefully, I know his family is still devastated that this situation happened 12 years ago.
But this is something you do never, as a parent, especially, you never get over.
Yeah.
These aren't to live with it, I guess.
Yeah. Hoping that they find happiness in some way and joy. So
I wish they could get rid of the double jeopardy nonsense and just do it again. But anyway.
Yeah. Rest in peace, Trayvon Martin. Okay, so I'll start with mine. So basically, everybody knows this situation. I'll kind of basically short form it a little bit. So Trayvon Martin, if you guys know who he is, he was a 17-year-old kid at the time. So basically, here's a short summary of what happened to him. So on the evening of February 26, 2012, Trayvon Martin was walking back to their fiance's house from a nearby convenience store.
No, he's walking back to his dad's house, fiance's.
Well,
it's his dad. He's going back home. No, I think he had a girlfriend, but
that's the fiance.
But he was 17. No, what 17-year-old getting engaged?
I'm just getting the report from Washington Post right now that it says his fiance.
I always thought it was his girlfriend, not fiance. Maybe I'm wrong, but
okay, let's rewind back. Okay, on the evening of February 26, 2012, Martin was walking back to his girlfriend's house from a nearby convenience store. Zimmerman, a member of the Community Watch. So if you don't know, the Community Watch, basically, it's is it like a security guard, I would say, but not really. But
It's not.
you're just like a
It
neighborhood.
isn't. It isn't. It isn't. I think it's like you have a group of people who
Mm-hmm.
will sign up or whatever to be this neighborhood watch. I don't think this is something we particularly have here in Canada. I think it's mainly an American thing. And it's kind of like, protecting the neighborhood.
Right.
So I think it's kind of like that, protecting the neighborhood or being aware of things happening in the neighborhood, whatever. But they're not police officers. I need to stress that part too. They're not police officers. If they see something potentially happening, they should be calling the authorities, not taking matters into their own hands. But,
right.
Yeah.
Don't ever do that, guys. Don't take things in your own hands. If you, like she said, if you see something that's dangerous and that's in your neighborhood, call the police.
Not to say that Trayvon Martin did anything. He was walking down the street with a hoodie on. In this case, he did nothing. But let's continue with it.
Yeah. Saw Martin and reported to the Stanford police
He
as
did.
a suspicious. Yeah, he did. As a suspicious, several minutes later, an altercation happened, and Zimmerman fatally shot Martin in the chest. Basically, that's a short summary. Yeah.
I mean, that's basically what happened.
Yeah. Very young. Didn't really do anything, but just like, walking the street, and then, this neighborhood watcher just started something.
And I think too that I want to put out here, like, I know like Dr. Phil, it's controversial, but I remember he had the family on the show, and they stress how amazing he was, how dedicated to his studies he was. He wasn't this bad kid that did anything wrong. He was walking down the street to his girlfriend's house, minding his own business, and all because he was wearing a hoodie. He just thought, oh, this guy's bad, and a black boy wearing a hoodie. Like, it's
crazy. Just for wearing a hoodie.
Yeah.
Just for wearing a hoodie, and
where were they from again?
Let me see. Let me do my research here. Stanford, Florida.
Oh God. Okay.
Yeah. So there's like I said, there's a lot of kids that
And listen, I don't want to shit on Florida, even though sometimes I do.
Yeah.
But the problem with Floridians, and in particular the ones that are in more of the south feeling parts of Florida, because at the end of the day, Florida is the south. But I think if you're going to Orlando, Miami, those tourist areas, it's a different feel than like the closer you get to Georgia or anything like that. But there is racism in the end of the day, depending on where you are. There's no doubt in my mind that Zimmerman is a racist, and that is why he killed this kid.
100%. Even though he is an African American, I would say.
Zimmerman?
That's what it. Yeah, hold on.
No, Zimmerman is not African American.
Let me just. Well, that's what I did my research on the internet. I guess you don't believe everything on the internet nowadays. Let me see.
No, I don't think he is. I would be even more pissed if he is, actually.
Oh no, he's an American man. Sorry, I got it.
Okay.
My bad.
Yeah, because I think he has like that. The skin tone throws you off a little bit.
Yeah.
But no, he's definitely a white man. That's what I thought.
Okay, yeah, he is a white. Yeah, he is a white man. So was born October 5th, 1983 in Virginia. So, yeah, basically from
So this
America.
man is just oozing south. Yeah. Okay.
So my apologies, guys.
Yeah, no.
For that, for the background.
He was fairly young himself. Like he must be just over 40 now.
Yeah. He also identified himself as Hispanic as well.
That makes sense. I can see that.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, he's a little bit Hispanic. Yeah, I can see that too.
The thing again, though, he may not be African American, but he is a minority. So it's just like,
yes. Why?
You think for a second that someone would shoot you down? Especially like in those times, these were times of Donald Trump kind of putting his shit out there about Hispanic people. Come on.
I mean, wait, isn't this before Donald Trump got elected? Like,
wasn't it? 2012.
2012.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
I thought it was. So you're trying to tell me that was 10 years
ago? It seemed like. Yeah,
holy shit.
It's over 10 years now.
I thought it was more recent than that.
No, that's not during.
Okay, so then this was before. This was before Donald Trump, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, before Donald Trump.
Oh my god, I didn't even realize it was that long back.
Yeah, a long time ago. And I remember, if I remember, LeBron James was wearing a hoodie supporting.
Oh, everyone was, not just him. Yeah. Everyone was. Yeah. A lot of
rights
people
leaders,
were doing it.
Politicians, senators in America, even the Canadians back,
Like I'm pretty sure I remember seeing. Oh, of course. There's you gotta also take into account here. We've said this before. We might be a different country altogether, but we are influenced by the States and vice versa.
Right.
We're very close. So yes, we are going to support things that are happening, and same goes the other way. I do also remember Kevin Hart wearing a hoodie, a gray hoodie, same as Trayvon Martin was. I remember that picture circulating, but I know a lot of African American, or should I say Black, celebrities were doing this to bring awareness to him.
Bring awareness to him in general. Like it was a crazy thing. Including Al Sharpton. Al Sharpton did like a speech.
Oh yeah, of course he did
as well. Do you remember?
I don't remember the speech, but of course he did. He was going to be all over this thing. Yeah.
When it comes to civil rights movements or anything that has to do with like Black lives, etc. Al Sharpton's there. So so they did have a trial weeks later.
They did.
Like, or
not weeks,
the next
years.
Then the next year. My bad.
Was it next year? The next year, really?
Yeah, the next year. Yeah.
Oh, wow, that was fast.
So in the following weeks, as Zimmerman remained uncharged, the shooting drew increased attention on March 12. The chief of Stanford Police Department affirmed that no criminal charge could be filed against Zimmerman, mainly because of the absence of probable cause. A day later, however, Stanford police investigated assigned to the case recommended that Zimmerman be charged with manslaughter.
Not enough.
On the basis that the violent encounter could have been avoided. Zimmerman remained free, which was seen by many as injustice and demonstration demanding prosecution for murder were organized in cities across the United States. In April 2012, the governor of Florida, Rick Scott, appointed as a special prosecutor for the case, who brought a criminal charge of second-degree murder against Zimmerman.
That's
source is from
better than manslaughter.
Yeah, this source is from Washington Post. So if you guys are, guessing where it's coming from, it's from there. There's more. Zimmerman's trial, which began more than a year later in June 2013, received extensive media coverage. The prosecution argued that Martin's death resulted from Zimmerman's profiling of him as a criminal and trying to take a law into his own hands, like you just said. The defense argued that the evidence, Zimmerman's version of the events, namely that he fired his weapon because Martin was attacking him. Yeah, I remember that. There was like an article that said that, Zimmerman was attacked by Trayvon Martin. I was like,
yeah, I'm gonna say about that. I think I vaguely remember that too.
Yeah.
If you were nowhere near him and you see him, you think it's suspicious or whatever, how can you then say, oh, he attacked me? Had a very similar feel to the sheriff I talked about last week. It was like, oh, they attacked me, yet they're handcuffed. Come on. They didn't attack you. You just want an excuse. Right. So that's how it was like with him too. You're nowhere near him. Mm-hmm. You call something in, which we don't know how that could have ended up either, honestly.
Right.
And you then probably walk up to him and confront him. Maybe you're the one attacking him. How do we not know then, in that case, what are we supposed to do? Not attack you back? Let me make this very clear, because we are Black people. If you're going to come up to us, and it doesn't matter what your race is, it doesn't matter. If you're going to come up to us and try to hurt us, we are going to defend ourselves. And if you don't like it, then don't come up to us. Don't come up to anybody. Honestly, it doesn't matter. Don't go up to anybody.
Yeah,
so you're asking for trouble.
That's anybody, like, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Don't do it. That's why. And I'd be very curious to know, like, was there defensive wounds on Trayvon Martin? Because those are things that can be easily seen by, doing an autopsy or whatever. So, but in this case, I don't know if they would have done one, because they kind of can see how he was. I think by law you have to, depending on the state you're in. So it's just like, come on. And then again, and I've learned this in school, like when I was in school, we did criminal law. We were told you have the right to defend yourself against someone who's hurting you. However, you have to use the same amount of force that is being inflicted on you. So if someone is using their hands and hurting you, then that does not mean that you bring a gun to a fist fight. That is not longer self-defense. And if you're aiming for a part of the body that is going to potentially be fatal, that is no longer self-defense. You can defend yourself if you have the gun, fine. If you're going, not fine, we're Canadian, we don't do that here. But if you have a gun, fine. But you could have shot him in the foot. You could have shot him in the leg. You could have shot him in a place that is not going to be, fatal right away. Yes, if he sits there and it's bleeding out, then it's not going to be great, obviously.
I mean, because you shouldn't have shot him in the first place.
No, but I'm trying to play devil's advocate here. If you really think that your life is in danger and you want to disarm the person who is quote unquote attacking you, there are ways to do that without shooting them in the chest. Because you are most likely going to hit them in the heart or an artery that can bleed out. There are arteries in our bodies that if hit, we have seconds before we are dead. So
100%.
Don't
Yep.
do that. So I
Yep.
don't buy
Or you
his
can,
story here of, oh, he was attacking me. No, he wasn't. He walked up to him. So that right there shows you're the aggressor, even if you were not the one who started it. Or let's say, for example, let's again play devil's advocate. Let's pretend you didn't start the fight. You started it the moment you decided to walk up to him. You called the police. Let the police deal with it. Why are you then going to go and address him? Why?
right.
I don't understand. And like, I'll say I have other things I want to point out, but I'll talk about that after. Continue.
Okay. That's
Milo in the background.
Yeah. We have another dog in the background too, so that my mom's babysitting as well. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Where did I left off? So attacking him, and that he felt that his life was threatened. Central elements of the incident, however, could not be asserted for intense witnessed. Disagreed on who could be heard screaming for help on a recorded call to emergency service.
And that's the thing too. It's like there was no witness to this, as far as we know. There is no like the serious like independent witness here who can attest to what happened. You have an audio, which I would love to hear. I don't know if I actually have heard the audio. I feel like I have, but again, this was a while ago now. But you have the audio that doesn't clearly state who is the one. And again, it's hard to kind of sit there and be like, of course it's Trayvon Martin. Of course he was the one that was yelling for help, because our biases are going to tell us that. But we don't really know, because we don't know. And again, like, you could have his parents like listen to the audio, but it's not, they're not a reliable witness to say, oh yes, that was my son, because they're grieving. They obviously want that to be their son, and that's where the biases come in. And it sucks, because it's like, again, in my mind's eye, it's hard for me to believe that the man who walked up to Trayvon Martin is screaming for help. I'm sorry, I just don't see that.
I don't see that. I don't see that at all. Like that.
No. But that's not enough in a court of law. That's the problem.
In my opinion, at the time, I always thought he was lying all the time.
Oh, of course.
He's basically lying.
Oh, of course.
Like, I feel like, George Zimmerman's a big guy, and,
he's an older guy. This man was in his 30s, fighting someone who was, about, say, 15 or so years younger than him.
17.
And from my understanding, Trayvon Martin was a small kid. He was a small kid. He was skinny. He was he was tall, but he was weight-wise, he was a small kid.
Right.
And here you have this guy who in size is bigger. I don't know how tall he was in comparison to Trayvon Martin, but weight-wise, like, I'm not saying he was fat, but whatever. He was a chunkier guy.
Yeah.
Come on. Like, it's just, no. You are not the one asking and screaming for help. It's especially if we don't know at what point he would have pulled out his gun. We don't know if he was brandishing his gun. We don't know any of these things. He could have been brandishing his gun the entire time. For those who don't know, brandishing means waving your gun around. But if he was brandishing his gun, how do we not know? That's why Trayvon Martin was screaming for help. If it were to be him screaming for help, I'm sorry, but I would be. If someone's brandishing a gun in front of me, I'd be like, the fuck is this? I'm going to ask for help. I want to hope that someone in their home is going to hear me. And again, also, he wasn't far from the convenience store either, right? Like, he was just mere steps away from the convenience store. I think he's hoping someone's going to hear him and help him. And again, I want to ask this too, because I don't think we've asked this question. Obviously, it was a question we've asked at the time too.
Right.
Why did you kill him? Why did you approach him? Why did you call the police on him? Why? Because you see a kid wearing a hoodie. Oh my God. Wearing a hoodie. Again, can we also remember Florida does get cold? You know, depending on the time of year, it gets colder at night. So maybe that's why he's wearing a hoodie on. You know what I mean? And from what I understand, he died in February, correct?
Yeah, Black History Month.
Right. So it's going to be colder because it is winter. It is winter time. Even though it's Florida, you do get colder in the winter. So he's probably cold. He went and picked up, what was it, Skittles or something? He went and picked up candy. So did you think he stole? So let's pretend again, devil's advocate. He stole, which I think they've proven he did not steal. But let's say for devil's advocate, he stole the candy. You're going to kill him over Skittles? Go fuck yourself. Like, seriously. That's like, when you put it in that way, it's like, come on. You make no sense. And the fact that you're going to sit here and say, oh, the 17-year-old attacked me, who's now dead. You're sick. You're sick. Continue.
Yeah, I can't. Yeah, I think it's just racial profiling at its finest because, you're looking outside, you see a kid. Like I keep saying, a kid
again
wearing a hoodie.
This man profiling anybody. That's not your job. That's not your right. You're not a cop. I can't remember if he tried to be a cop and was denied. I feel like there's something like that with this guy too. So I wonder if he just had this, you know, especially now that he's like a part of the neighborhood watch. He and to put it in layman's terms, he was a narcissist. He had this God complex because of the fact that he, you know, was able to be this neighborhood watch guy. I think in all honesty, he had a God complex. And when you're dealing with people with a God complex, they don't see reason. They think they've done nothing wrong. And I know, and you know, spoiler alert, we know how this ends. He gets acquitted. That just adds to the God complex. I got away with it. I did nothing wrong. The courts told me I did nothing wrong. Yeah, it's just ridiculous.
That's crazy. Well, since you spoiled it, but I just want to continue. So I think this is the verdict right here. Although the original criminal charge brought against Zimmerman was second-degree murder, the judge also gave the jury an option of convicting him of a lesser charge of manslaughter.
Right, which is typical.
In order to find Zimmerman guilty of a second-degree murder of manslaughter, the jury had found out that only that Zimmerman had caused Martin's death, but also that he did not do so in self-defense, which you said, not the self-defense. The issue of self-defense was linked to Florida's law permitting the use of deadly force to defend on oneself.
Right.
Against a perceived threat known as a stand your ground law. So
they have to stand their ground law.
If you want to explain to the people what a stand your ground law is, because
the best way that I can describe the stand your ground law, it basically gives you the right to potentially kill somebody in this case, even if the situation doesn't necessarily, you know, need that kind of deadly force. For example, if you're in your home and like, I think Texas has this too. I believe South Africa has this as well. Just kind of taking it out of America for a second. If someone enters your home and they're intruding on your home, you have the right to use deadly force. Example, using your gun and killing this person. So as an example of that, if you remember the case of the Olympian in South Africa who thought he was killing an intruder, but he actually killed his girlfriend, because he had that stand your ground, they have that stand your ground law there. But, you know, that's basically an example of it. You have the right to use any force to protect your home. So a lot of places who have the stand your ground law is the South. So Florida is one, Texas is another one, I believe. I'm not sure of any others, but it's a tricky law, because I don't see how you can use the stand your ground law in this situation. I just don't understand that. But who am I? Go ahead.
So 23 states have the stand your ground law.
23.
So Arizona, Colorado, Florida, Georgia,
that makes sense. Really?
Maryland, Kentucky, Michigan, Montana, and North Carolina, North Dakota, Oklahoma, Ohio, Pennsylvania,
Pennsylvania,
South Carolina,
okay,
yeah,
wow,
South Carolina, Tennessee West, and Virginia.
So not Texas.
There's a couple, yeah.
Oh, you messed up. Oh, Texas. Okay. I'm like, oh, come on, no, Texas is serious. They do everything.
Is there Texas? I don't see Texas here.
Really?
Interesting.
Because they put people on death row. They finish the damn thing. Florida does too, though. If Florida puts you on death row, you pretty much you're done. You're not going to sit there. Kind of like what California has it as well, but they tend to. Well, they did. I don't think they do now. But when they did, they just have you sitting on death row forever. They wouldn't actually do it. But anyways.
Yeah, so the stand your ground law, which was central to the debate over the shooting. Instructions to the jury referenced the law, but Zimmerman's lawyers ultimately did not invoke Zimmerman's rights under it, because they argue it did not have the option to retreat anyways. On July 13, 2023, wow, 2013, I went 10 years back. After more than 16 hours deliberation, the jury found Zimmerman not guilty.
And I remember the outrage that everyone felt, including myself, when that was announced. The only way that I can compare that same outrage for people who followed the Casey Anthony case, which again, that's in Florida too. What is going on in Florida? Stop it. If people are killing people, they should at least at a minimum be responsible and do the time. If it wasn't second degree, fine. But at minimum, it was manslaughter. So why didn't he serve any time? It's ridiculous. And Casey Anthony, same thing. Kills her child, and she got away with it. She's out here trying to bank on her child's death. And that's Florida. It's just, come on now. But I remember that outrage of you can't be serious. And this was something, again, that kicked off that Black lives don't matter to people. Because if it did, he would have served time. His family deserved that justice. Trayvon Martin deserved that justice. Black people in general deserve to know if something is going to happen to me at the hands of someone else, that's going to be taken seriously and that person's going to serve their time. But that was for me, and I was young. So we're talking 2012 here. I was, 20 at the time? That made me think, so we don't matter. At 20 years old, I had that realization of we don't matter. I was 3 years older than him when he died. I don't matter. That could have happened to me. That could have happened to anyone in my life. We just don't matter.
Yeah. When I heard about that, I just felt that, like, you know, the world don't care about us. You know,
Exactly.
when I heard that, you know, at all. Like, but yeah, it was such a sad situation that, you know, the jury or the court decided to make that decision that, you know, George Zimmerman gets to walk off free and, you know, hide somewhere in his little...
Yeah, where the hell is he now? Where are you? Because, like, how do you get to live your life?
Yeah.
Like,
and
in peace and quiet, basically.
Yeah. And knowing that a young teenager is basically dead.
Not living his life.
Yeah.
And can never live his life.
Yeah.
His family is going to forever wonder what his life could have looked like and not be able to have those answers.
Yeah. 100%. 100%.
My turn. So, to keeping with the theme of talking about children, I am going to be talking about Emmet Till, who died when he was 14. He was born on July 25th, 1941 in Chicago and died on August 28th, 1955 in Money, Mississippi. So his death catalyzed the emerging civil rights movement. Originally, this kicked it off. So talking about Till's kind of how he's brought up. He was brought up in a working class parents on the south side of Chicago. When he was barely 14 years old, Emmet took a trip to Mississippi to spend the summer with his relatives. His mother, Mammy Till, which we will talk about her a little more a little later, knew Emmet to be a jokester, accustomed to being the center of attention, and she warned him that whites in the South could react violently to behavior that was tolerated in the North.
Right.
So he wasn't brought up, like, I think she herself was from Mississippi, but he was not. So he's not used to, like, what can happen to someone who looks like him. This animosity was exacerbated by the U.S. Supreme Court's 1954 decision in Brown versus Board of Education of Topeka, which overturned the separate but equal doctrine established in Pelcy versus Ferguson in 1896, which basically allowed racial segregation in public facilities. So I'm assuming that this Plessy versus Ferguson case stopped segregation, but then it was overturned. Sound familiar? Because the states likes to overturn things that should just be left alone. We won't talk about that right now. Till arrived in Money, Mississippi on August 21st, 1955. He stayed with his great uncle Moses Wright, who was a sharecropper, and he would spend his days in the cotton harvest, and Emmet actually would as well when he was there. So on August 24th, so the day before, I believe he was murdered, Till and a group of other teens went to a local grocery store after a day of working in the fields. Now, accounts of what happened after this is a little different while they're at the store. So, some witnesses stated that one of the other boys dared Emmet to talk to the store's cashier, Carole Bryant, who was a white woman. It was reported that Till then whistled at, touched the hand or waist of, or flirted with the woman. So those are three different things that could have happened. as he was leaving the store. Now, I want to say here, there actually was a mini series that, at least here in Canada, I believe came on global TVs. I'm not sure where else it would have been on. It might have been on the History Channel. But I advise watching this series. I know there was a movie as well. I think either has come out or is coming out.
Right.
Because when you see this particular scene in it, you're just like, we don't know exactly what happened, but I think they went the route of he whistled at her in the series. And it was just, I want to talk about.
So basically, he dog whistled at her.
Like, yeah, he whistled at her. Yeah, like, he whistled at her, like, you know.
Okay.
Yeah. But that's what they think happened. Yeah, they think obviously something happened, but we just don't know what happened, and we don't know what transpired it. Now, here's what I'm gonna say. I don't want to blame the boys, but I'm gonna have to put something on them here. These boys who may or may not have encouraged him to do this, because that's how it's portrayed in the show as well. If they encouraged him to do this, as people from Mississippi who know what it's like to be Black people in the 1950s, you never should have told him to go and do something to this white woman.
Yeah,
I don't agree with that. Why did you do that? Now, I don't want to blame it, because at the end of the day, the blame goes to the fuckers who killed him. But you never should have done that. You never should have done that.
At that time in the 1950s, racism was like...
Yeah, and they're from Mississippi. They
extremely
know.
high.
Yeah, Mississippi was bad. You know what Mississippi is like. He doesn't. He's from Chicago, where that shit... I mean, there is obviously going to be racism too, but not to this degree. Like, what the fuck were you thinking? Now, again, this is not me trying to blame them. I'm just trying to say here, what the fuck were you thinking? You know, if this is how it went down. So, whatever the truth may be, Emmet did not mention this incident to his great uncle. So let me also preface this. His great uncle knew the men who showed up. Well, I'm going to ahead of myself, but he knew the men who killed him. It's a small town. Everyone knows everybody. Okay. In the early morning hours. Go ahead. No, go ahead.
Oh, did he? Did his uncle like work with these guys, or?
I don't know if they worked, because he worked in the cotton fields. I don't know if he knew them. I try to remember if one of them was a cop. I can't remember if one of them was a cop, or had connections to the police. But nonetheless, I don't think they worked together. They knew of each other. But the thing is that Emmet never told his uncle what happened. I don't know if he thought nothing would come from it. I don't know.
Yeah. Continue. Go ahead.
Yeah. But so in the early morning hours of August 28th, Roy Bryant, who is the husband of the store clerk. Now let me put this out here too. The store clerk told her husband what happened. But we're gonna talk more about that in a little later. But Roy Bryant, the cashier's husband, J.W. Millam. Don't know who the fuck this guy was to him again. I think this the wife's brother, if I'm correct. But anyways. Oh no, here we go. Bryant's half brother. So whichever Bryant this is, I think it's Roy's half brother, forced their way into Wright's home, that's the great uncle, and abducted Till at gunpoint. So he goes into these people's home, forces his way into their home, because he thinks he has the fucking right to, forces his way into these people's home, scares the fuck out of them. How they portrayed it in the series too, it's like, he was holding not only, we're trying to get Emmet Till, he also was holding the uncle at gunpoint and kind of being like, where is he? Tell us where he is. don't say shit either. You know what I mean? That's basically how this was. Anyways, it was scary watching it.
Yeah.
But
Wow.
Brian and Millum severely beat this boy, gouging one of his eyes. I'm going to send you a picture I'm going to send you the picture in a second so you can see what they did to him and how unrecognizable he was. But we'll get to that in a minute. So, yeah, so they gouged one of his eyes out. They then took him to the banks of the Tallahatchie River, where they killed him with a single gunshot to the head. The two men then tied the teen's body to a large metal fan with a length of barbed wire and then proceeded to dump the corpse into the river.
Wow.
So we'll get to the body in a moment, but Wright reported the kidnapping to the police, and Brian and Millum were arrested the following day. On August 31st, 1955, Till's corpse was discovered in the river. His face was unrecognizable as a result of the assaults, and positive identification was only made possible because Emmet was wearing a monogrammed ring that belonged to his father. On September 2nd, less than 2 weeks after Emmet had embarked on his journey south, the train bearing his remains arrived in Chicago. Now, I'm going to be talking about the remains and how difficult it was for her to get his body back. I'm going to talk about that because it's going to enrage you. But anyways, Mammy Till kept her son's casket open, and I'm going to talk about that too, choosing to reveal the tens of thousands who attended the funeral, the brutality that had been visited on her son. The appalling images of Emmet's body in the casket appeared in the pages of Jet magazine and the Chicago Defender, and his murder became a rallying point for the civil rights movement. So, before we continue on with this story, Mikel, I'm going to send you the picture of his body so that you can understand. It is a picture of, you see a picture of him, what he looked like, and ultimately what he looked like. So I've sent it to you. I want to know what you have to think. What do you have to say about that? His body is on the bottom half.
That is disgusting.
How
many people like that? You gotta be.
And you have to also think about it this way. Really... Part of that was, yes, the beating. It's also the fact that he was in water, so his body floated as well. But when you look at him, he's beautiful face. And then you see what they did to him.
Yeah.
And you think too, like, no wonder they couldn't properly identify him. I hate to be graphic here. His face was gone. So it's just like, it's horrible to me that I'm gonna cry. But it's horrible to me that anyone could be so disgusting. I don't care what he did or what he may or may not have done. He didn't do anything. Oh, he was gorgeous.
He looks like a good looking good looking guy.
He would have broken some hearts.
And they just and then they do that to him. Like, what type of hate in your veins go through you to do something to somebody that?
And again, very similarly to Trayvon Martin, you did this because he whistled at your wife. Listen, fuck your wife, and I'll get to her in a minute. She's dead now. I hope she's resting in hell. But we'll get to her in a minute. Like, she recently passed away, like within like last, I think, couple of years. She died very recently.
Interesting. Yeah.
I think Roy Bryant's been dead for quite some time, but she divorced him anyways. But and moved on to somebody else. But we'll talk about her in a second because fuck her. Fuck this whole thing.
Wait. Yeah. So I know it's common that you're going to say, did this person receive any penalties or received any time in jail or something like that to do this to Emmet?
Let's get to it. let's get to it.
Okay.
All right. So the trial of Emmet's killers began on September 19th, 1955. And from the witness stand, Wright, his uncle, identified the men who had kidnapped Emmet. After 4 days of testimony and a little more than an hour of deliberation, which was, the jury was an all-white jury, okay? Because back then, women, all men, by the way, all men, white jury. Women could not be on the jury.
Wow.
And black people were not allowed on the jury.
So it's just an all-white jury? So there's
all-white jury.
Diversity?
All-white jury in Mississippi.
I think I see where this is going.
You see where this is going? They acquitted Bryant and Milam of all charges. When I say how angering that is, I can't even. Like, there is no denying they did this to him. But his young life didn't matter to anyone. It's
that's disgusting.
Yeah. So obviously protected from further prosecution by double jeopardy, which I mentioned earlier, which basically means once someone has been charged, and like as long as a trial doesn't have a hung jury, if a trial had a hung jury, you can go through another trial again. But once the verdict has been made and the verdict is acquittal, you cannot charge someone again. You can't do it. It's done. There's no going back.
So you can't. So wait. So what? Even though for like the 1950s, like it was different back then. I understand because like racism was the all-time high. Blah blah blah. They can't like say like 30 years later like
no
like say
no
like
no
revisit it.
No. Times may have changed, but the laws have not. It doesn't matter that because of racism he was found acquitted. It doesn't matter. It sucks. It's not fair, but it doesn't matter because I guarantee you in today's world he would have been charged not only of first degree, he probably would have been charged of capital murder.
Yes.
Both of them.
Yeah.
But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's not gonna, it can't change anything.
I need water for this. I need water for this. Give me a second.
Okay. You get water. I'm gonna keep going. So because he was protected by those statutes, the pair was paid for the story and interviewed by their lawyer and a journalist in a 1956 article for Look magazine, in which they related the circumstances of Emmet's kidnapping and murder. So let me say this again, because they were so very similarly to what's his face, O.J. Simpson. Even though O.J. Simpson didn't even do this, even he knew I can't do that. But it's very similar to him. These fucking idiots did an interview and admitted, yeah, we did it, and here's how we did it, because they can't be prosecuted again.
Wow.
That's sinking.
Oh.
I can't.
They were basically cocky about it.
Yeah, they were. So
these assholes.
Yeah, which we're going to talk more about Mammy Till, which was his mother. She ended up becoming a civil rights leader herself and dedicated her life to changes that needed to be made, as well as keeping her son's legacy going. Yeah. So here's maybe a little bit of solace, whatever they can do. In 2004, the FBI reopened the case. Although Bryant and Milam were long dead, peace agents sought to obtain a conclusive account of Emmet's final hours. The 3-year investigation, during which Emmet's body was exhumed. I didn't know he was exhumed. I guess his mom obviously allowed that to happen, which I don't think she would have not allowed it. But I never knew this. But anyways, he was exhumed for a complete autopsy because, let me say this, and I don't think I have the notes on this, he never had a proper autopsy done. He didn't have an autopsy done, actually. Let me rephrase. He never had an autopsy done. And I will talk a little more about that, but while his body was in Mississippi, because police are the ones who have the authority to do that, they never did it. Because why do it? They don't care. They never did a proper autopsy. And Mammy was not able to do it herself either. So anyway, they did a complete autopsy. Did not lead to the filing of criminal charges, obviously, but it did uncover a deathbed confession of Millam's brother Wesley, who admitted his own involvement in the kidnapping and murder. So there is 3 men involved in the kidnapping of Emmet. Not 2, 3. But the brother was never mentioned. After the exhumation of Emmet's body, he was reburied in a new casket, and the original one was placed in storage at Burr Oak Cemetery in Alsip, Illinois, pending the pending the creation of a planned memorial on the site. Now, this is kind of not so much involved, but I do want to talk about the nastiness of people. In 2009, a scandal involving the reselling of grave plots led police to investigate the cemetery, and they discovered Emmet's original casket rusting and abandoned in a work shed on the outskirts of the property. Later that year, the casket was donated to the Smithsonian's National Museum of African American History and Culture. So I guess if you want to see the casket, which I don't particularly want to, I guess you can.
Did his mother get to say in this?
She probably did. Did. Yeah.
I was wondering if they just took everything. And,
because I also want to say too,
yeah,
with this too, with Mammy Till, she wanted to leave his casket open, which again, we are going to talk about. There's a reason why she wanted to do this. She left the casket open with a lot of people telling her not to. So I think with Mammy Till, she very much wanted to be like, I'm going to push the envelope on things because no one wants me to, but I'm going to.
She wanted people to see what people, these evil people did to her, son. So
they wanted to hide him, which I'll get to in a minute, but they wanted to hide what happened to him. And with his image out there for everyone to see and for years to come, because here we are, how many decades later, and I could still find a photo of him. He was never, this is what they didn't want, But anyway, Mammy Till, is talking about her for a little bit. She was born on November 23rd, 1921 in Mississippi, and she died January 6th, 2003. I don't think she was actually had a lot of involvement, especially in the casket, and because she was gone at that point. And I don't know if she was even alive when they exhumed his body. She might not have been.
I wonder if Emmet had a family beyond his mother.
Probably, of course. Yeah, the family kept going.
That's what they probably that's probably they got a say into this. Okay, that makes sense.
I'm sure she was remarried as well. She did get married to someone else too. I wonder if she had children with him. It's very possible. Yeah.
Right.
So she was an American educator and activist who helped with the emerging of the civil rights movement, as we've been talking about. I actually have, again, I'm going to have a lot of pictures. I do want to, I'm scared to post it on Facebook, but I think as long as we blur it out, I think we have the capability of blurring things out. I will be blurring things on the site so you don't have to see everything. But Facebook is scarier for me.
I don't think.
If I can.
I wouldn't.
No, here's what I'll say. If I can blur it, we're okay.
Yeah.
we can blur it and we will be fine. If I can't, I will not post it. Trust me, I won't do that. I won't have people scrolling and be like, oh my God, no, I'm not going to do that. But I do have separate pictures of Emmet without that particular picture I sent you. I do have pictures of just him alive and well. So I will be posting a lot of those pictures, of them and his mom. She was so sweet and cute. Anyways, yeah. So just to put a little backstory in all of this, in 1955, so the year he died, she actually had planned a summer trip to Nebraska, for which he was supposed to go. He was supposed to go with her. Rather than join her, though, as we know, he wanted to go to Mississippi. He just wanted to yell, don't go. But that's what he wanted to do. She did at first refuse him going to Mississippi, worried that her easygoing son was unprepared for the treatment of blacks in the South. But she later wrote, and quote, how do you give a crash course in hatred to a boy who has only ever known love? Right. However, she finally did relent, and obviously, as we know, he went to Mississippi. Oh my God, let me preface this. He went to Mississippi on August 20th. A week later, he was dead.
Wow. So where did he live before?
Chicago.
Chicago.
Yeah, he was from Chicago.
And he lived in Chicago for how many years?
Well, 14. He was born and raised in Chicago.
Nothing ever happened.
No, not like that.
To him in Chicago.
Not like that.
As soon as he went to Mississippi, the most.
Yes, and here's the thing too. Remember that movie I mentioned to you? It's called Loves, where it's basically an interracial marriage in the deep South, in the time where it's legal. They also lived, I believe, in Mississippi, and they fled to Chicago in order to be married, have their children because they had kids. And be able to live their life normally. Like I remember, and this is a true story. This movie is a true story. They ultimately also, because when she had her, I think her first child, she wanted to go back to Mississippi so his mom, because she was a midwife, I believe, so she could deliver their baby. Do you know the things they have to do in order to get the masses into Mississippi for them to ultimately get arrested the next day after she gave birth to her child? So Chicago was a place where they could flee. So right. It wasn't like the South. It was, pretty normal for the most part. Yeah. For what normal was back then.
I think there were there were more black people in Chicago.
I don't know.
I believe. Is that right?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure about that.
In the 50s.
But anyway, so when she was told that her son had been kidnapped, Mamie Till sought help from Chicago reporters in the National Association of Advancement of Colored People, NAACP. As her story spread, others became involved, including politicians in Illinois. On August 31st, 1955, Emmet's mutilated body was discovered, as we can attest to, and its face unrecognizable, and again identified by the ring. And here we go. Here's where the parts that I was telling you about that I'm going to get to. Mississippi officials planned a hasty burial. They wanted to bury him in Mississippi, but Mamie Till demanded that her son be returned to Chicago. Of course, this is his home. He should be in Chicago. Local law enforcement ultimately released the body on the condition, let me rephrase, on the fucking condition that the casket remain closed. They literally told her, don't you dare open that here casket. Leave it closed. How dare you? So, however, after the casket arrived in Chicago on September 2nd, Mamie Till insisted that it be opened and was shocked by her son's disfigured corpse. And that is why she left the casket open at the funeral. Because you don't want to keep it closed. Because that's what you're trying to hide. So, believing that the, quote, whole nation had to bear witness to this is what she said. Mamie Till held an open casket funeral, and estimated 50,000 to 100,000 people saw firsthand the brutality that had been inflicted on him. Obviously, as we've said, all additional pictures were taken of him. And in his casket, they actually had photos of him in his casket, like what he looked like before. So they could see, this is what they did to him. So in September 1955, as we know, the jury acquitted these idiots. And after this, the grand jury subsequently opted not to indict the men on kidnapping charges. So I think they were only indicted at first on the murder charges, but then when that didn't happen, they tried the kidnapping ones. That they didn't. The grand jury said, no, we're good. So,
wow.
Mamie Till's handling of her son's funeral helped make racial injustice a national issue and encourage others to take action. In December 1955, Rosa Parks refused to surrender her bus seat to a white man, later saying that she had been motivated by Emmet Till. Throughout her life, Mamie Till sought justice for her son. She gave speeches across the country and helped raise money for the NAACP. Her work proved crucial to the civil rights movement. It also inspired the Emmet Till Anti-Lynching Act that was passed in 2022. I don't know why it took so long, which made lynching a hate crime.
I remember that.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Despite her efforts, however, no one was ever held accountable for Emmet Till's murder. In 2017, Carole Bryant, the dumb idiot who said anything to her husband, admitted to lying under oath during her first husband's murder trial, falsely stating that Emmet Till had touched her and used crude language. However, she was never prosecuted. She lied, and she admitted to lying. She started the whole thing. If it wasn't for her. In 1957...
She felt guilty all the...
Oh, yeah, but she didn't say anything until many, many years later. I think she waited for her husband to die, but yeah.
Yeah, haunted her.
It should have, and it should have kept haunting her.
It probably did. Nightmares and etc. Every single day, probably thinking about it in her head. And it finally went her, probably maybe it had a lot to do with her husband controlling her to not to say anything.
He was abusive, I believe.
Keep it in.
Yeah, he was abusive to her for sure. I believe he was.
Right. So
but I feel like I don't think he was even in the store. I think it was just her. I don't know. I mean, maybe he was. I don't know. But she could have just said nothing. But instead, she chose to say something and lie while doing it.
Just to impress the white her white peers.
I don't know if that's necessary to impress anybody, but I'm not saying that she wasn't a racist herself. She probably was. But no, I think she was for sure.
Yeah. That's what I was going to tell you. Yeah, she.
Yeah, but from what I remember from the series, I think it was the other guy who killed him. Kind of said, oh, I heard something about this black kid like flirting with you or some shit. Like, I think something started it, and then the husband's like, the fuck you talking about? And like said, it's basically forced it out of her. I think that's how it's portrayed on the show. I don't know if that's accurate. Maybe that's giving her a pass. I don't know, but fuck these people.
Yeah. Evil.
Yes.
Evil people.
It is evil. It's very evil.
All right.
Well, that's it for me for that one anyways. Yeah, well, until the next one, but you're going next.
So this next one's gonna be about George Floyd. You guys heard about this? Sad situation as well. George Floyd was born October 14, 1973. Basically, he was an African American man who was murdered by a white police officer in Minnesota during an arrest made after a store clerk suspected Floyd may have used a counterfeit $20 bill. So basically the store clerk called the police officers, and then basically
Yeah, we know.
The rest, yeah.
Unfortunately, the whole world saw it happen.
The video footage. They were trying to, I guess trying to calm him down, but they just was like,
There's a way to calm him down.
Yeah, but they were
And that's not
basically aggressive. Yeah, but
no, I think here's the thing that I'm gonna say.
Yeah.
I know a lot of things came out about George Floyd and his criminal past.
Yeah.
So I think he probably was freaking out, obviously.
Yeah, that's why I was getting at.
Yeah, not because of his race, but because I can't get arrested again. I don't know if the counterfeit 20 was known to him. I don't know if it's just came into his wallet by accident. I don't know. I don't know. But to calm him down is to not put your foot on his neck. You have people behind you telling him you're choking him, you're killing him, he can't breathe. And he still kept doing it.
Yeah, but this was like before that happened, like they were outside trying to he was he was freaking out, like he said.
Yeah.
And then they took him to the car, etc. And then they just they try to shove him in the car, and then blah blah blah, and then that happened.
Okay, shove him in the car, but how did he go from being shoved into the car to being put on the ground being choked? How did that happen? Listen, arrest him if he is trying to use a $20 counterfeit bill.
Yeah.
Don't kill him.
Yeah.
He had a daughter. He had a little daughter who isn't able to grow up with her father. Come on, guys. This is... Again, I don't care what the hell he did or didn't do. This was not needed.
Yeah. Even though, there... And what upsets me is that was it two or three other police officers didn't come in and just
didn't do anything.
Tell what's his name? What's the police officer name? Derek, to just ease off of the man's neck. That's a dangerous point to put a knee to a man's neck like that.
Well, of course.
Right. So and put so much pressure on the man's neck, and then to the point that a man's just basically just asking to breathe.
Yeah.
And so
it's wrong. I said it's wrong.
Yeah, it is. It is wrong. So the police officer Derek, what's his name? I can't pronounce his last name. I'm just gonna call him Derek because I have no respect for him for even doing that to a black man. Even though George Floyd had a bad past, you don't do that to any you what's the word I'm thinking of? you don't have the right to make that decision.
Well, that's why there's things put in place in the law. You don't take the law into your own hands.
Right.
Even though you're a police officer, but you're here to enforce the law, not take it into your own hands. But two of them already have been convicted, including Derek. I think his last name was Chavez or whatever. He recently got beat up in prison. I'm gonna keep saying it because he was taken out of isolation and put in a gem pop, and then he got beat up. Fortunately, he didn't get shipped. Oh well. Maybe next time.
Okay. Yeah. Well. So, Mr. Floyd's death has spiraled national-wide protests against police. This is from the New York Times. Police brutality, and reckoning over everything from public moments to sports teams. So, like public. People from the public to sports teams to even like center, even this is like similar situation what happened to like
Trayvon Martin.
Well, Trayvon Martin, yeah.
I think even bigger though. I think even bigger.
Yeah.
Because
it's bigger.
It was everywhere.
Because
and the outrage, and this was during a time during COVID too.
And social media is at an all-time high right now too. So
in comparison to
2012 was just like
social media. When you think of it, this in 2012 was still fairly new in comparison to now. We didn't have all of the things that we have now. We didn't have the TikTok. We had Instagram and everything, but you know. It just wasn't what it was.
We had Twitter. Twitter was around still. Facebook, Instagram. TikTok wasn't around like you said. Mr. Charvan or Charvas.
Whatever.
Whatever his name is. And the 3 other officers involved in Mr. Floyd's death: Thomas Lane, Teo Thao, and J. Alexander Kang or Kong, I don't know. I can't respect any of them.
It doesn't matter.
Were fired and charged with variety of crimes. Mr. Chavez was convicted of murder in April 2021. Was sentenced to 22.5 years in prison. And the other 3 officers were,
got second degree, right? Second degree is lesser. What's the lesser charge?
I think so.
And I think he pled guilty, didn't he?
I think he pled not guilty.
Oh, not guilty. Okay.
Yeah.
Of course he did. Okay.
Yeah. So in prison, the other 3 officers were sentenced to several years in prison. I don't know what several years is. It's probably 7 to 10 years, or
Depends on what they were charged with.
I had to look into that, but I don't have any respect for these officers because they should have just stopped Derek. So
especially when one of them was a black man. I can't get over that. I can't get over the fact that one of them's black. And he just sat there. We just sit there and let it happen.
Yeah, just stood there, just looked at the black man, and like I understand that. I understand you're putting your job over your race. I understand
the job that you no longer have, and you never will.
Yeah, I know. Yeah,
but do the right thing.
That's what I was going to say. Do the right thing.
He still would have had his job. And his freedom. They all would have. If someone stopped him.
Situation, I would have pulled Derek away from him and just get off.
One push would have. This would have changed everything.
It would have changed everything. I would tell you, you're killing the guy. You're killing him. Get off him. I'll handle this.
Especially when
you just put in.
He would have fallen, whatever. Like, come on, it could have been such a different outcome. George Floyd would have been alive.
Yeah.
Those people probably still, maybe with the exception of Derek, I don't know, but the three probably still would have had their job for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Derek probably would have gotten like suspended without pay or something, but eventually would have gotten a job back. Like, the outcome could have been so different for everybody.
Well, I like to apologize to everybody. Like, I don't have any respect for these officers. If I said their names wrong, I'm sorry. I apologize.
I don't think anyone here cares.
Yeah. So I just want to, give my respects to George Floyd. Rest in peace to him, and happiness to his family. Hopefully they can find it in their hearts to find that, and
find peace.
Yeah.
I feel for his daughter more so than anything. I know from witnessing how it can affect a child to lose a parent, a father, in that way, in a murder. They can thrive. They definitely will thrive. It's not a fun thing to see on the outside when you see that happen.
You should have heard what his daughter said when he died and saw his art, a lot of
the murals,
murals, art that a lot of people did for him. It's like she said, look, Daddy, you changed the world.
No.
Yeah, that's what she said.
So, I mean, he definitely did, but it's sad that it's sad that people have to die in order to make an effect on the world. I don't want to bring it here again. I don't want, but it's what is so amazing about with Hamilton, because again, Hamilton came out right, and again in Disney right when this happened, and it was so needed. I think it was so needed to kind of bring the parallels. But there's one scene in it where they say like, oh, you heard about the Mercer, and they named a street after him, and Aaron Burr's like, and all he had to do was die. And Hamilton's like, we ought to give it a try. Because that's so true. It's like, in order to make a change in the world or be recognized, you have to die. And why is that? Why? Why can't we make a change while we're alive, or be recognized while we're alive? No one should have to die, especially in this way, to make a change in the world. It's just, it's not right. It's not right.
Yep.
Well, you done with yours? That's it.
So, wait a second. So basically, ever since, when I said about his daughter, said he changed the world, more than 30 changes have passed, 140 oversights and reform laws on local police since Floyd's killing. According to New York Times, some of these laws are restricted tactics such as no knock warrant, which led to the death of Breonna Taylor. Her?
Yes, of course. Her death happened before George Floyd, right?
Yes.
And no one knew about it. It was never put out there until after he died.
Yeah, so
I still don't understand how you can do a no-knock warrant on someone like that and do it in the middle of the night. Like, this is... And... God.
Yeah.
Oh. It's scary. Okay. It's a scary thought to know that's okay to do. But I'm happy they've abolished it. And I don't know what's happened with necessarily defunding the police, because it's also pushed the defunding of the police as well.
don't
When
think
I
that
didn't,
ever happened.
I don't
Oh, go
know.
ahead.
I think depending on where you are, it might have happened. And
Yeah.
I didn't particularly necessarily agree with defunding the
Yeah,
police
yeah,
until I did
yeah.
my research on it. And I'm like, oh, that's right. There's certain things that the police don't have the ability or the skill to handle. For example, mental health. We've seen that here in Canada. We had a police officer kill someone who was having some sort of mental break on the TTC streetcar. Remember that?
Mm-hmm.
On Toronto Transit Commission. That's what it stands for. It's a streetcar
Yeah.
that he was
Yeah.
killed on. Police don't have the ability to handle someone who is having a mental health crisis. So in those cases, I do think someone who is trained on dealing with someone having a mental health crisis, those people should be stepping in, not the police. I do agree with that. So I think in certain aspects, maybe defunding the police is a good idea, but I still want to make sure that I mean, I don't think there's something happening here in Canada, but I would still want to make sure that if I'm in a crisis, whatever crisis that may be, that if I know that the police are going to be the ones that are coming if I need them to be the one coming. I just, that's a part of it that I was unsure of, but as long as they're doing it in a way where it's still going to protect people's safety, I don't care what they do, as long as people's safeties are still being protected.
100% agree. Like, I don't agree with 100% defunding the police.
No.
You know, like,
and again,
you're risking your lives, safety. Go ahead.
Yeah, and again, just to put this out here, a lot of the problems that police officers encounter is also their own mental health struggles. So something needs to be put in place, and I think they're doing the work on that, but I think something needs to be put in place where police officers' mental needs are being addressed. We're talking about people who are dealing with PTSD, anxiety, depression, and these are the people who have to come and serve and protect. But who is serving and protecting them?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I agree. You took the words out of my mouth. I can't say anymore other than that. So, yeah.
Okay. So
I'm gonna go on to the
last one.
Next one?
Yes, the last one we're doing.
Last one.
And there's not as much information with this one, but it's still an important one. So the 16th Street Baptist Church bombing, which they consider a terrorist attack, happened in Birmingham, Alabama on September 15th, 1963. And this church was a predominantly African-American 16th Street Baptist Church. And the bombing happened by local members of the KKK. So this resulted in the injury of 14 people and the death of 4 girls. And the attack garnered widespread national outrage. So throughout the civil rights movement, Birmingham was a major site of protests, marches, and sit-ins that were often met with police brutality and violence from white citizens. Homemade bombs planted by white supremacists in homes and churches became so commonplace that the city sometimes was known as Bombingham. Local African-American churches, such as the 16th Street Baptist Church, were fundamental in the organization of much of the protest activity. In 1963, the 16th Street Baptist Church hosted several meetings led by civil rights activists in an effort to intimidate demonstrators. Members of the KKK routinely telephoned the church with bomb threats intended to disrupt these meetings as well as regular church services. How about y'all get a life? Anyways, when a bomb made of dynamite detonated at 10:22 a.m. on September 15th, 1963, church members were attending Sunday school classes before the start of the 11 a.m. church service. So they're not even doing any protest. They are trying to worship the Lord. Okay, that's what they're trying to do. The bomb exploded on the east side of the building, where 5 girls were getting ready for church in a basement restroom. The explosion sprayed mortar and bricks from the front of the building, caved in walls, and filled the interior with smoke, and horrified parishioners quickly evacuated the church. Beneath piles of debris in the church basement, the dead bodies of 4 girls, Addie Mae Collins, Cynthia Wesley, and Carole Robertson, all age 14, and Denise McNair, she was 11 years old. They were discovered in the debris. A 5th girl, which could be said there was 5 girls, 5th girl who had been with them, Sarah Collins, who was actually the younger sister of Addie Mae Collins, lost her right eye in the explosion, and several other people were injured. As we said, 14 and were injured. Violence broke out across the city in the aftermath of the bombing. 2 more young African Americans died, and the National Guard was called in to restore order. Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. spoke at the funeral of 3 of the girls. Despite repeated demands that the perpetrators be brought to justice, the first trial in the case was not held until 1977, over a decade later, when former Klan member Robert E. Chambliss, I've heard of this guy, was convicted of murder. Chambliss, who continued to maintain his innocence, he died in prison in 1985. The case was reopened again in 1980, and in 1988, and finally again in 1997, when 2 other former Klan's members, Thomas Blatton and Bobby Frank Cherry, were brought to trial. Blatton was convicted in 2001 and Cherry in 2002. Both received life sentences. Cherry died in 2004 and Blatton died in 2020. I hope he got COVID. A 4th suspect, Herman Frank Cash, died in 1994 before he could be tried. So it seems like they kind of figured out everybody who was involved, I think. So the bombing of the 16th Street Baptist Church was examined by director Spike Lee in the Oscar-nominated documentary 4 Little Girls, which was done in 1997. In the film, Lee interviews witnesses to the bombing and family members of the victims, while at the same time exploring the backdrop of segregation and white harassment that were central to the time period. So I am going to have photos of these little girls. They were so adorable. One of them was so cute with her little hat. She looks so cute. Anyways, I'm going to have that. I'm going to have pictures of the church and what it looks like now, after, because it's still there. It's still upright. And I'll also show pictures of the bombing site afterwards. It's a very nice church. That is my story. Again, this was these 2 stories for me, these cases for me, Emmett Till and in the 16th Street church bombing, were stories that I heard in my Black History Month class many years ago. I am not that old. A while ago. And it was one of those things that I'm just like, again, I hadn't heard of either of them before that. And it's like, I could not fathom that something like this could actually happen at any time, that someone could be so hatred at any time. Maybe that was my ignorance, but I never thought like this kind of thing could happen to anybody, and it's sick that it ever did.
And it still continues to this day.
With the cases you talked about. Yeah,
Trayvon Martin and George Floyd.
And George Floyd was
hate is still
only
here.
3.5 years ago. We're approaching the 4-year anniversary of his death, and it's just it's insane to me that things like this are still happening.
I think we have a lot to work to do in the world. Not just the United States or Canada, but in the world. I think racism still goes on, and even in the UK, even in, in this.
We deal with it everywhere, but it's particularly bad in the States. And the thing too is that I'm sorry, I'm going to bring Hamilton back up again. Not so much the play itself, but Leslie Odom Jr. Is that that's the basketball player. Sorry, the guy who plays Aaron Burr. Listening to kind of the behind the scenes aspects of Hamilton, which is actually on Disney Plus. You can watch it if you want to. There's 2 different ones, and he mentions when they actually did the taping of the Hamilton play that appears on Disney Plus, which was filmed in 2016, was just after, was about within weeks of the other police brutality that happened with the guy in New York, where he also was being choked and couldn't breathe. Remember that? I can't remember his name. But it happened in New York. And they have also had body cam footage of that as well.
Is it Taylor?
I can't remember his name. He does mention his name on the thing. I knew exactly what he was talking about, but I couldn't remember his name. But he said it happened right there. I think he said he actually knew him or knew people who knew him. So and the whole purpose of him telling the story was the parallels of this happened right before we did that in 2016, and here it was happening again right around the time that we're releasing it in 2020 with someone different. It's it's crazy when you think of it. This is not, it hasn't, and even after George Floyd, we still had other people being shot. There was one guy, I think his last name Jacob or his first name Jacob, who was in a parking lot sleeping in his car or something, and he got shot by the police. He didn't die, but he was shot by the police. And it's just have we learned? Nothing. No, we haven't.
Yeah. I like I said, we have a lot of work to do in the world. We need to change certain things, change certain laws. So it's just sad that I mean we are making progress, but
we are.
It's just sad. It's just something like that still brews and continues to happen in the world. So,
and I think too that is important is that kind of similarly to when you maybe have a sit down with your partner and kind of be like, this is what I need from you. I need you to address these things. This is where we need to fix. And then it kind of goes in one ear. You might do it for a little bit and it comes back out the other ear, and they just do the same things all over again. I'm not talking from experience. But similarly to that, we need to make sure we're putting the work in and that it sticks. Not that we're going to do it for a decade and go right back to what we were doing before. It needs to stick. Enough's enough.
Yeah. And this probably happens to people that that you don't see on the news very often. So there's a lot of unknown stuff that we don't know in.
Exactly.
Okay, I'm going to end this
Yes,
episode. So this ends episode 20. Sorry, I'm a little bit,
I think
uh
understandably flustered.
yeah, flustered,
Yeah.
you know, as usual. So this ends this special Black History Month episode series of episode 20 of the Next Take podcast. The Next Take podcast is available now on all podcast platforms. We also have a website called solo.to, Next Tape Podcast. So where else are we at, Tanyka?
We're on Facebook and Instagram at Next Take Podcast and Twitter, TikTok, at Next Take Pod. Um, yeah, I think that's basically it there for the socials.
Yep. So just follow us there. And for our contact, email us at mikeltanika@gmail.com. So we talk about a bunch of stuff, Tanika. So
Mhm.
like, Emmett Smith,
No,
um,
Emmett Till,
Emmett Till.
the 16th Street bombing. We talked about Trayvon Martin and George
Okay.
Floyd.
Okay. Yep. Yep. Apologize for the mispronunciation.
That's fine.
So Emmett Till. Uh yeah. So what's our next episode? So I guess we're doing
We're gonna take it
artists.
easy. We're gonna be doing things a little
Yeah.
more easy for the next episode. We're gonna be talking about Black people in arts. Which I realized we kind of talked about a
Mhm.
lot of artists, but I think we also need to throw in some like dancers or something in there too. Um, I think because arts is not just music, but
Mhm.
yeah, we maybe could
Could
throw
be
in
could
somebody there too. I have
could
an
be
idea of
graffiti. It could be clothing. Could be
that's not arts.
art.
Arts is
I mean,
music.
yeah. Well,
No, music, dancing, actual art.
huh.
Those are
So okay, I thought you
that's
mean
fashion.
art can be. I thought you mean art can be in different forms.
Art.
Something like
The
that.
definition of arts is
Art.
like dancing, music. Um, I think even acting, I think is considered an art
Yeah.
form, and as well as um, uh,
I mean,
there's something else I mentioned. I can't remember now. Actual art.
like there's graffiti artists too, like art as in like, and then there's
Yeah, but that is considered art. That is art. That's part of the arts. But
yeah, that's
clothing
okay.
is not considered art. That's fashion.
I mean, if you put art on clothing,
It's still fashion. Still fashion.
yeah,
We're not
I
talking about
mean,
clothing,
it,
people.
it,
We're
it,
talking
is-
about
it
arts.
is. I mean, it's different. It is
It's
art.
it is fashion.
It is a
It's
work of art.
fashion.
You know.
It's that's not what arts
Okay.
is.
Okay. Okay. All right. All right. All right. All right. Okay. So we're doing art. So any type of
Art.
artists that is out. Oh my God. Okay.
Arts. Because when you
Arts.
say
Okay.
arts, it means
Arts.
everything. Yes.
Okay. Arts. Okay. You got that, people? Arts.
Arts.
Okay. All right. So, um, anything else is coming other than that, Tanika? I heard you have a special
All right. I guess we can talk about that. Yes, we're gonna
little
have a special
spicy episode.
spicy episode. What are you talking about? Calm down. We're we're gonna have a guest on. Hopefully, we should have a guest on. She has confirmed that she'll be on. For anyone who listens to my other podcast, Reality Times Two, you will know that she has been on there talking sister wives and the family Chantel, um, when that was still on. So she has been a part of
Mhm.
my podcast over there. So she's gonna come over here and talk a little Black people and arts. So
Okay. Okay, okay. But isn't there another episode that you're forgetting?
what episode? Oh, the bonus episode. That's what you meant?
Yeah.
We
That's
do. We
spicy
do.
episode. Let's go.
No, not spicy. Calm
Let's
down. Y'all can't have this. You can't experience the whole spicy in this of that. But yes, the Valentine's Day episode, we're going to be doing a bonus episode. It's going to come out right on Valentine's Day. Because Valentine's Day happens to land in Black History Month. So we are going to do something a little fun with that. And hopefully, as long as I can make sure that he listens and does what I need him to do, the view might be actually meeting my boyfriend on that episode as well.
Nice.
Yes, I do talk about him on my other podcast as well as I've talked about him here too. So you guys will be the only ones who get to actually hear his voice.
Yep.
And let's be kind to him because he does have an accent. So yeah.
Okay, no, that's fine.
Yeah,
that's fine. We're kind here, are we, people?
I would think so. He's self-conscious about his English, but he's great English, guys, so it's fine.
Good. All right. Okay. So that's all the surprises that we have on this this episode. Also congratulate ourselves for our 20th episode on this podcast as well. We made it. Hopefully we can do we most likely will do 10 more.
Of course, we have a whole year planned.
Yeah, exactly. So okay. So this ends this episode. I am Mikel and
I'm Tanyka.
And we'll be back next week. Peace.
Bye.